That's fine. Dave, I've just plugged the station for some donation.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any news you wanted to share, sir?
Uh, Probably the best advice to everyone is take your time. Don't go to Windows 10. So, anywho, on another note, not really. You know, with these shootings, crazy shootings, and then the twisted way that the media is portraying it. First as a workplace incident, and then probably the worst photos of two individuals that I could possibly think of, and that scene with Homer in The Simpsons, where he's just been on, is it 60 Minutes or something like that, on the show, and he's the bad guy because they played bad music. Well, this is the same thing. When I look at those pictures of the two individuals, all I'm feeling is as I'm supposed to drum up hatred for them because they look sinister. They didn't show them on a
But
Ferris
Dave,
wheel or something, Mecky.
did they wear black hats?
Well, if we're not supposed to like the people with the black hats on, right? Is that
I
right?
know we
Yeah.
have to hate them, hate them, hate them.
Yeah. So, it's very strange. That's all I can say. Yeah, thankfully, we don't have any mass shootings currently. The last one was in '96. There's been 253 since then in the US, and there was a pop vox. Mackie, there was a pop vox done with Australians and voicing their opinion on the US. And that gun, basically the topic was gun control, and they just stuck a microphone in someone's face and let them talk for a while. I think you should be allowed to have guns. Guns exist, so you should be able to have them. If they didn't exist, then that would be a troublesome matter of acquisitioning a gun that didn't exist. But they do exist, yeah? And history says that it should be better that the people are armed. That's what history says. Look,
no argument there.
People that are crazy doing crazy things will do crazy things with knives or guns or any other way of being able to do crazy things. They will choose the craziest implement to do that. I didn't want to use the other words for it. That's all I want to say. And when other countries in the world are reported to have had the same or similar situation, please question it. Please question whether number one, it's real. Number two, the methods and motives of the people that they're reporting to have undertaken whatever event it is. Question that as well, because it may not be. We don't know. All I know is that whether or not people are dying for real or not is outside of my control. I can't know it, and I have to put some faith, not all of mine, Mackie, and you're probably the same, some faith in the media to get some of the facts right. Not all, and whether or not they're telling us repeatedly on a 24-hour news cycle that seems to go for a week about the same event when it only lasted a few minutes. Why keep telling me? I don't want to know. Honestly, I don't want to know if you're going to keep telling me the same thing. If you're going to have a live cross from one reporter to another in another place when no events are occurring, what a waste of airtime that is. What a waste of satellite time that used to be, Mecky, where they have a live cross to a reporter at a foreign site and there's nothing happening. They're just outside a building. Well, actually, I'm outside the building, and as you can see behind me, nothing's going on. What on earth? That's not a news story. There's plenty more things that they could be talking about. They could have
they do it on purpose. Yeah.
They do it on purpose.
They do it to lend credence to whatever they say. It's completely irrelevant to the story where they're standing, but nonetheless, there it is.
Yeah, I've seen better live crosses on whose line is it anyway. whether in front of a green screen, just like Fox News was on top of the building with those two clowns doing the Iraq conflict. Hilarious. Hilarity, yeah? So, look, I have to say, if you haven't already announced, Meki, that Solaris had a great show.
She did.
She did, as always. But today, if you've only just joined us, I'm sorry, I had such a terrible time with my computer. I lost my USB controller, my mouse disappeared, my camera disappeared, my keyboard, I couldn't do anything. I had to force power it off and have you turned it back? Have you turned it off and on again? I had to say to myself, and I said, no, I haven't done that yet, so I better. So apologies for being so late to the show. So Solaris had on, and while I was doing all that, I was listening to the show, and she had on her show Mike Pfeiffer and Rod Serling, Museum and Archives Hollywood. And I was listening to that. It was really good. So
just in case you don't know, Rod Serling is the guy who brought us the Twilight Zone.
Awesome.
I know, right? He invented the thing.
Oh.
He's the guy that used to give the intros to the original Twilight Zone while smoking. He was smoking on public TV, talking about the story he was just introducing. I found the Twilight Zone episodes that go back that far to the 50s or 60s, I think, where he's standing there in a nice madman suit and smoking away and talking about the Twilight Zone.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you're listening to our show and you don't know who Solaris is, Solaris Blue Raven, check out the station's archives. That's freedomslips.com. Check it out for Solaris's archives. Or catch her show. It's on before ours, 2 hours before ours starts. So I have to apologize, number one, for being late. But the second is, this is such a crazy time. It's a crazy time to be alive, and with all of the religious prophesies and all over the internet, and when you go back to Nostradamus and you're reading, because I've been doing that recently, I've been trying to focus in on, and I know everybody is doing this, everyone who's interested in this is certainly doing it with more effort now than probably any time, and that is looking for the trigger. What's the trigger? I think we're knee deep in it, but what's the trigger of the next world event, or the disaster, or the catastrophe, or the mistaken step? Because it's not always plain sailing for the governments. And like I said last week, and I don't want to really repeat the same thing again, but for shame, you governments letting us all down, because I suspect you're really there. You're really meant to be making world peace, and you're letting us down. And I prefer the peace thing and fixing the economy to having to continually tell us that there's mass shootings and problems and all this. But Meki, there was a climate change conference in France that continued this week, and despite that, our political arena was still shaped by non-believers that climate change is actually happening. And that was in our political arena.
Look, we've got more morons governing Australia, but nothing new. But the thing is, I want to say one thing about this climate change thing. One thing. Let me be very clear. Okay, we know climate change happens all the time. All the time. How do we know this, Dave? We know this because we found mammoths frozen solid with buttercups in their mouth. That's a climate change for you. Okay, whoosh. Changed from temperate to freezing permafrost. And not only that, we know that oceans where mountains used to be, and mountains once were at the bottom of oceans. Well, Mackie, that's crazy talk. Why do you say that? Well, I don't know if you've been to large mountain ranges. You'll find a lot of marine fossils there. How'd they get there? Oh, they were just... the wind blew them there. That's clearly what happened. Guys, climate change is a fact. What you can debate is whether or not humans have an influence over it. That is debatable, in my opinion, right?
Mhm.
Are we accelerating certain things? Well, maybe we are. We're certainly releasing a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, right? And other greenhouse gases as well. But if the permafrost thaws in Siberia, right, it would release more methane than anything else we could ever have done, and would have a much, much greater effect
Meki,
on climate than
E-
anything else we could do.
correct.
Yes, sir.
Even if we had a machine designed to do nothing but produce methane, and
That's right.
had it running for the last 100 years, it
Yeah.
would be exceeded by the sudden release of methane from the permafrost.
Yeah. There
That's
was
the
actually a
kind of
crackpot.
that's the kind of problem that we're facing. As soon as we tip it, it doesn't just tip. It's like I hesitate to use this reference, but it's like you're on a seesaw, or in America it's a teeter-totter, and the large person on the other side gets off while you're up in the air. That's the extreme nature of the tipping point that occurs when that methane is released. And don't forget the continuous bombardment and pummeling that this this poor little tiny planet gets, and wipes out everything every once in a while on a almost predictable timescale.
We spoke about this week, Dave and I, and I mean, what are the events that can bring about this climate change? And this was one of them that we discussed. It could be any number of things. could be increased solar activity. We could bring it through dirty, a bit of space. That pollutes our atmosphere and traps heat. I mean, the point though is
It could be
that
gamma
clearly-
rays, gamma rays,
Yeah.
Meki, from other stars. Yep.
I know, but the thing is this: the scientists, since we started records, I think it's 100 or a couple of 100 years ago, 100 years more accurately, temperatures have risen, and every year in the 2000s, for the last 15 years, has been hotter than the year before. So right now we're in the hottest year on record. So in 2016, if the trend continues, will be hotter than 2015, making it the hottest year on record ever. They used to talk about 1 or 2 degree increases in temperature. I remember this vividly when this first came about. And then they said, this will never happen. It'll take hundreds of years for this to happen. Right? Hundreds of years. Now they're talking about 6 degree increases in temperature.
That's
talking
right.
Averages, global averages.
And that's crazy talk.
That's crazy talk. Not only that, by the end of the century, so another 85 years.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they're done, it'll be 10 degrees next week. Okay? And this is really... This is the problem, because think of the Earth as a very complex system, but it's not a closed system. It's a system that gets constant outside inputs, constantly inputs from the outside all the time.
That's a clever thing that you just mentioned there, Mickey. That's very clever.
Yeah, but it's a very complex system, very, very complex, and we don't have the modeling capability, and this is why the 6 o'clock news never gets the weather right. We don't have the modeling computer power to accurately model our weather. We just don't. It's too complex. It's worse yet for climate, because climate is a collection of weather over time. So whatever we say now, we haven't even scratched the surface. People used to think, these glaciers won't melt so fast, it's not possible, because they only thought about heat acting on top of the glacier, for example. I'm giving an example here. The heat is only acting on top, so it'll melt from the top. What people failed to realize, and what's actually happening, is that the glaciers also melt from the bottom. And they create these channels within the glaciers of runoff water, okay, which are hotter than the rest of the ice, and they cause the glacier, in fact, to slide off along the rock. The ice breaks off under its own weight by having been chiseled away by these rivulets, little tunnels of water that are formed by the ice that is melting. That's a knock-on effect, okay? And there are others as well, like the melting of the permafrost. No one 5-10 years ago would have thought this even possible. It's impossible. It's too big. Can't freeze. No way it's going to thaw. Yeah, wrong. Yep. So when I say 10 degrees next week, I'm only half joking. I think that the estimates will have to be adjusted again and again and again. And I can tell you another thing. It is way too late to do anything. You can have all the climate summits you want. You can, do this and that. Even if we stopped right now using coal-powered plants and no more cars for anyone, everybody has bicycles. Don't care. Don't care. Doesn't make a difference. We are way too far down the line, and I'm also saying it might not all be human related. This, like Dave just said, these things are cyclical. They really are. Okay, and they happen for whatever reason. I mean, I don't know. It's a complex system, but they're outside inputs. And what people believed for the longest time, and I still think is a fairly good theory, the only thing big enough to influence weather is the sun on Earth. I mean, right? If you look at the enormous energy output the sun has, this is just clearly a good theory. I think there might be another one. Whatever happens inside the Earth clearly can have a very big impact on that, such as the blowing up of Yellowstone, for example.
Well, yes. Anything that clouds the atmosphere is going to bring an ice age on, and it does it very rapidly. We know nuclear winter, a celestial impact, a huge multiple volcanic burst, or a supervolcano. They can do it as well. And we know we saw a slight dip back in the, when was it, 98 to 2000 or something like that. There was a slight dip in the northern hemisphere's temperature due to the Indonesian volcanoes, it's fortunate that occurred when it did. But the reason why we've gone into ice ages is because of these factors, and it's not. It looks to be related directly to impacts. And that the only reason we're coming out of the last ice age is because there was an impact, and it just naturally thaws itself out again. And everywhere you look, where there's flat land at 2 meters above sea level, is because it was a tidal or an intertidal zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason for it. There is no other reason, because it's why it's flat. I mean, everything, all the mud and sediments will naturally form flat areas in intertidal zones, and there'll be a channel to let the water out during the tide changes. But that's it. And if you have a look at all how prevalent the 2 meter above sea level, well, certainly in the temperate zones of the planet, because the sea level is a lot higher. Sorry, the tidal change is a lot higher towards the equator, the equatorial regions, and it's a lot smaller towards the poles. And so typically you'll see where we live, Meki, it's about 2 meters, but when you go further up the coast of towards the equator, it can get to 4 or 5 meter change, even higher than that in some places in the planet. So all I can suggest is I believe the climate is always changing, like Meki said. It was actually really cool to catch up this week. Meki and I caught up in real life. Yay.
In real time.
Yeah, like the old days. And we had a great old chat. And although it was a whole day full of, incidences from left to right.
Misadventures.
Yeah. It was actually really good. And we found a great restaurant that served us a breakfast, and we had a great coffee. And thank you to you. But all I can say is this... when I hear anyone debate whether or not climate change is happening or real, I think that person should just go back to school. But honestly, because it is happening, and it's always happening, and it's going to continue to happen whether we're here or not, and whether, like Meki said, we're producing carbon or not. It doesn't make any difference. What makes the difference is, and I think it's a ridiculous argument, is to what's causing it. I don't think we should be arguing over what's causing it, just to all admit that the darn thing's happening in the first place, so that we can start to mitigate it. Now, the first thing that we have to mitigate is where people live. If you're living within 2 meters of the current sea level, depending, this is geographically, longitude, is it longitudinally? No, I forget now. Wherever it is you live between the pole and the equator, you should be making adjustments to your life, finding a place, longitude, thank you. So looking for a place that you won't be inundated by. any change in sea level, because the sea level is continually rising, though they're not telling you that. But if you have a look like I did around the 200-year ago mark in Sydney Harbour, one of the world's famous harbours, at where they'd placed the stairs to access your boats, are now almost completely underwater. There's like 5 stairs that go below the low tide mark now. They weren't below the low tide mark, and there was a platform you could step onto at the low tide mark 200 years ago. That's completely underwater, and will never ever be exposed again until the next cycle when we recover from another ice age. So all I'm saying is, just don't listen to the debate. Don't try and create debate over it. Just recognise that it is occurring, and certainly those people who live in Australia are acutely aware that the sun's output is so much stronger. Whether or that is, as we've debated 100 times, that is that the Earth's atmosphere is thinning as one of the possibilities. The actual, if the sun's output was the cause, Mickey, it would be occurring globally. We believe maybe it's the ozone hole. Thank you to everyone who sprayed hairspray in the 70s, because of chlorofluorocarbons. But it is changing, and it is getting hotter, and we're just going to have to put up with it. I think we have to find better ways of building houses. Yeah. Our infrastructure has to cope with it. But anyway, look, it's a long discussion, and we don't have the time for it. So I apologise. I'm stepping down. I'm stepping off my soapbox.
No. Soapbox is good, my friend, and that was very elucidating. So no, look, I think it's important. And then, guys, if you have any doubt as to whether or not this is actually happening, talk to the people in the South Pacific. Talk to people from Kiribati or Micronesia and ask them where they're living or going to live in the next 2 years.
What about Sandy Island, Mackie? We did a show on Sandy Island. Sandy Island does not exist anymore. It's gone. That's correct.
It's no longer. Bye. But the key thing is to do what Dave said. Let's deal with the consequence. Let's move inland if we have to. Let's build dikes and levees. For crying out loud, Singapore is way ahead of us. They've built a levee, and they've walled off their harbor in a way, right? Where they control the height of the tide as it comes in, artificially. So,
but that unfortunately to me just seems temporary, because at some point we don't know how high it's going to get.
That's true.
Poor Holland, they've actually done a pretty smart thing. And they've built houses that are actually boats, and they float. So if the worst were to happen, they're going to be okay. But the problem is all the sewage, Mickey, and all the fresh water and water treatment and everything, and airports are usually on the flattest, cheapest land that you can buy. And guess what? That will be inundated.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, think about all of those things, and I'm sort of surprised to see that the governments aren't doing more about that. But maybe they just don't care. I don't know. Maybe it's not in their election cycle.
Maybe they are, but it's not for you, Dave. I mean, you got to see you got to see how you get by, right? The guys that are in the know, that have the cash and so forth, they're going to be fine, and they're always going to be fine. It is the people that have very little means to support themselves and plan for the future and take precautions that are not going to be fine. Those are the guys that are going to die, and they're not necessarily going to die by drowning. They will die of the things Dave just mentioned, dysentery, typhoid, all the knock-on effects of really poor sanitation, or no sanitation, zero, none. All of your lavatory systems are now flooded, all of them. There's no more. There's no more indoor plumbing, guys. It's gone. Right? What are you gonna do then? So this is a problem. No fresh drinking water. This is in fact a problem that a lot of the planet right now is facing every day. We are not lucky, but we may in the near future.
I harvest rainwater. It's legal where I live.
Yes.
And if it isn't legal in your town, I suggest that you petition to make it legal.
Yes, absolutely. It's your freaking water. It falls on your land.
Oh, but Meki, that
Right?
doesn't stop the government from suing people for it in the US, and I've seen that. I've seen it. How
nuts.
crazy is that? So, what if you hold a cup up or you open your mouth to the rain and drink some? What are they going to bill you for it? Absolutely.
That's a felony right there.
Yeah.
3 stacks, three cups, and you're gone for life, buddy. That's it. 3 felony. Whoosh. Gone. What?
You've had your free quota of water. Yeah. My goodness. Well, look,
No,
we've
but-
only got we only have a few minutes before the top of the hour, Meki.
I know. Look, guys, don't go away. We do only have a few minutes. That's correct, and we are going to finish, and we will be able to finish our show on secret societies. We are going to finish off the Asian component, and we will also bring you some of the African perspectives after the break. We have a list of some very interesting secret societies and cults out of the dark continent, Africa. Very, very interesting. And that's where we'll leave it. That's where we're going to leave it. I mean, last time we spoke to you about some of the connections between East and West. A very interesting article by Mehmet Sabheddin from New Dawn. A very interesting article. In fact, and then this Mr. Sabheddin, who shares my first name, believe it or not, and with the exact same spelling, which is unusual, is a regular contributor to New Dawn. So, like you've said before, in Australia we are very lucky, and I've traveled a lot, and I know this to be the truth. There are very few people, very few countries in the world or cities that have the plethora of magazines that we do at the newsstand still. So we've got Nexus, we've got New Dawn, we've got Uncensored, we've got the UFO Chronicles or UFO Files.
Yes.
And we've got Atlantis Rising out of the US, which is so-so in my opinion. We've got Hard Evidence as well. So we've got a number of publications which specifically deal. Well, we also get Fortune Times out of the UK. So all these publications come to Australia, and 3 or 4, in fact, 5 of them are published in Australia and New Zealand, and that's unique. It is absolutely unique. Nowhere else in the world is there such a hotbed or I guess a fertile ground for these magazines. I don't know why this is, but it just doesn't exist, Dave. I mean, we really we're very lucky here to get all this.
Meki, I just wanted to, I was something was brought to me this week. In fact, it was today. But the Illuminati was mentioned in a TV ad for a motor vehicle.
Really?
Yeah, and do you know what else they mentioned in the ad? The pituitary gland.
No.
I kid you not.
What was the ad? Go on, yeah?
I will be able to post the link into the chat during the top of the hour break. But until then, I can't really do it. But I was completely... It was an advertising a motor vehicle, and there's a father and daughter driving along, and he's using the equivalent of the Google, like Apple Siri, but using it in the car. And he's asking a bunch of questions, and those questions included the 2 that I mentioned.
Really?
Yeah. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought, what on earth is it that in what meeting did they decide? Because out of the thousands of questions that could have been asked to promo a car, he might have said, "Oh, what's the mileage for this car?" And the computer would tell him.
Yes. Yeah. No.
They could have promoted the car, but they didn't.
Well, what? Look, we don't want to do advertising it, but what was the car?
Oh, I'll do it during the break.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I didn't really want to advertise the motor vehicle itself, but it just bring to light that once that constant drip, drip, drip of information you hear, well, now it's gone to a TV commercial for a motor vehicle. I'm astounded that they should do that.
Yeah.
They talk about the Illuminati themselves never doing anything, because it's all hearsay, but never doing anything unless they've already told us about it. And that's what about 4 years ago, I heard that phrase used. And I thought, oh, that's preposterous. And then, sure enough, I was presented with more and more evidence that suggests that that's the case. That they never do anything unannounced. They always announce themselves in advance. And you'll find the evidence, here and there in a movie, whatever, a TV show, whatever it happens to be. Now it's TV commercials.
They can't help themselves. Yeah, you're right. They can't help themselves.
Yeah.
100% correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking about secret societies, and I thought it had to come up that I would be able to bring that one up. But thank you to one of our favourite listeners out there, you know who you are. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I couldn't believe it. I'm still stunned, Meki, that they should bring that up. They didn't connect it to the Eye of Osiris, but they. But it's still just mentioning the pituitary gland, and what are they marketing their car to? Deep researching people like us, Meki, rather than saying
clearly we are their market. We are the market cap, right? We're the focus group.
That's right. I'm buying one now. Right, I'm going to give you online right now and buy the car. Is that a good siren? So I shocked. I'm still shocked. In what focus group, Meki, was that approved? Do they say, "Oh, yeah, that's the one"? Yeah,
that's clearly they're our listeners. That's who the marketing agents were. They listen to the Shiny Side Out all the time.
And so well should you. And should everyone, and pass it on to all your friends. Meki, I also, I've mentioned this on a previous show, and I've got one more minute, I think, before, and that is that the trampoline that my children have, the brand is Vuly, V-U-L-Y. If you look at them online, you'll see that the deck in which you jump up and down upon is covered in icons, and one of those icons, as I've mentioned in a previous show, is a grey alien head. Unmistakably a grey alien head. This is a children's trampoline. Like, conditioning or what, Meki?
No.
It's not.
Shut up.
Shut up. Oh, I love the shut up. I love that shut up defense.
I don't want to do what you're saying. Shut up.
Yeah. All right. I'm shutting up. I'm not going to mention grey alien. Sorry, grey alien. Yeah, that's it.
But you see this? It's an all-pervading image now. You're right. We've discussed this elsewhere as well, children's books and so forth, right?
Yep.
But it's also it's everywhere, like Alienware, right? Boom.
There's the icon
people
right
think
there.
It's cool, right? Mm-hmm. It's out there, dude.
And the child book where and I forget the author, but the child book where an alien, basically, it's a person who can fly, not possessing any human traits. These are all paranormal traits that this person has. Collects children from parents all around the planet and takes just the children to another world where they grow up and have their own children, leaving their parents behind. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. What?
We have adult books like 1984. That's not. What was The Sky Is Falling? The Sky Is Falling, and the animated
TV show. That's horrible. That's a horrible TV show. Dude.
No, not Falling Sky. No, the one where the Chicken Little it is, and the aliens come to attack the Earth. It's an alien invasion. You're what? Oh, but don't worry about it. They're friendly aliens.
That's right. They will only eat your brain. What? You don't need it. You watch TV. It's okay.
Yeah, that's right. The 30 years of watching TV is ground that thing away. There's nothing left. Let us move on.
You guys are crazy.
And there was another
on that,
zombies, Meki, the other one.
Zombies.
Yeah.
I will have to actually make a couple of comments after the break, and this should be coming. The music should be playing in any moment. But I will have to say a few things about art imitating life and art reflecting life, and some of the observations I've had of late on that. But and that's across all the arts, by the way. But until then, I'd like to remind everybody, as I said earlier, half of the proceeds that surpass our budget go to a charity. Yes. And sorry, I will give you the name again. One is Meals for Vets, and the other one is Toys for Tots. So it's going to be 50-50 split of all the donations that go beyond $2,450 by Sunday, December 20th. Okay? So if you can give, please do. In the States, you will get a pocket knife. In Australia or New Zealand, Dave and I will send you a pocket knife if you donate more than $25. But I really do ask the station to let us know who that is. So if you are donating, give your address so the station can give us your address, and we can send you a nice little pocket knife. Completely safe, of course.
And of course within the bounds of the laws of Australia as well. And Mackie, I heard you volunteer me for that one. Well done. Take the time to donate during the break, and don't forget to mention our show in the description or the gift that you'd like to receive. Take care, everyone. We'll see you shortly.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958. And Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Mackey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, as Hawk said, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Since it is listener-supported radio, and if you like what you're hearing right now or at any other time when you're listening to the station, please go to freedomslips.com and depress the donate button that's on the site support page. It's also on the left if you're in the chat room. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run this station. And Meki has suggested, in concurrency to the Revolution Radio, the contributions having reached its goal for the month by the 20th, any additional contribution over $25 within the US, you will be shipped a pocket knife. We shall do the same thing ourselves because it excludes Australia. In fact, the offer is only available to those within the US. However, those who are in Australia, please nominate, when you make your donation to the station, your delivery address. If it's in Australia, we'll invite Hawk to assist us in getting you the pocket knife, but it'll be shipped internally within Australia. Okay, it won't go across boundary because they don't like knives entering the country. So, Meki, I'd like to say hello to all the new listeners that we have. And every single week, the listenership goes up. The people watching the archives go up. The followers on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Blogger, etc. all go up. We do appreciate your patronage. And while we do have our own donate button on our website, shinysideout.net, we do, though, impose upon everybody to make the donation to Revolution Radio. And if you have done that, then you may donate to us. We're happy to receive any money at all. And the money goes towards our field trips, where we go live to places around Australia. And we've done 2 of them so far. And they've been so enjoyable, and we're putting together a video for those. So we'll be posting that as soon as we can. Also,
hang on.
Yeah, what's
you're
that,
right. On that though, Dave is on a Windows machine. I'm on a Mac. So please, if you guys have some really good Apple Mac video editing software you can recommend, tell me. Yeah, we got like 5,000 people in the chat room right now. Guys, one of you surely knows some kind of really great video editing. And please, simple. Okay, real easy. So I just have to drag and drop stuff, maybe have a track for sound, but has to be easy because I have very little time to learn anything complicated at the moment. Okay, sorry too. But yeah, we do want to do this, and we are doing it, but my stipulation is that we need a really easy video editing software, Dave.
Yeah, well, I can do it on my machine because I've already got some really cool packages, but it's you getting them to me and doing the timeline. All you have to do is say, video 1, for instance, or whatever its name is, I would like to use from X to X, and that's it. I can put it together for you. Anyway, look, we're halfway through show number, can you believe it, 197.
790 and 100. Yeah, that's right. 3 more shows, like I said, to 200, which will most likely be a 4-hour effort, and also will be most likely still in this year, right? I think it's going to be the last show of this year, right?
It is the last show. That'll be on our 27th of December.
Ooh, I like it. I'm actually going to be on holidays. I think Dave might have some time off as well. So we will look. I'm happy to throw it down. I'll throw it down, Dave, and say we'll do a 4-hour thing, bringing together all the information. If the station will have us, clearly it's not like I can say 4 hours are mine. No. So if the station will have us. If the station will have us, I think we can do 4 hours, and it's going to be a summation of all the things we've spoken about, and they're all connected. And we will connect them for you in show number 200 as best as we can. Again, reiterating our hypothesis, which now is moving into the realm of a theory, because a hypothesis requires some evidence, and we have garnered now substantial amounts thereof. I don't think we have reached critical mass yet, so I'm still hovering on hypothesis. But Dave, and this is actually what I wanted to mention as well, in regards to the zombies and such. Art usually reflects society, any culture, and imitates it. In fact, and sometimes life imitates art too. But what I've seen over the last few years, and Dave and all of you as well, is a shocking proliferation of end-time material, end-time content. Okay, the most popular show right now is The Walking Dead.
Yes.
There are so many books out there right now which have that content. In fact, any movie pretty much that is popular these days, like The Girl on Fire, the Hunger Games. There's one. The Maze Runner is another. These are all set after the apocalypse has happened. Yeah, it has happened. Other movies, World War Z, but there's a plethora of others as well. Are I guess movies or storylines around the apocalypse happening as we speak, or in the very near future. And TV shows, movies, books. Art itself, some of the art that is coming out of various artists is quite dark.
One of our favorite authors, Meki, has written a book, and we interviewed him as well, and it was a post-apocalypse.
Yes. Correct. That's exactly right. That's very, very true. And it is not millennial in nature, because we've passed the millennium. And you know, when the year 1000 came around, in the year 2000, we had this millennial angst. We had this fear, or I guess this general psychosis related to the millennium. It's not that. We've passed that. It's 15 years behind us. This is something else. I wonder if this is how the lemmings feel just before they jump off the rock. But there's something that's being fed to us almost in preparation to what may come. Right? I mean, popular thing on Facebook is, you know, which zombie survivor are you? You know, how would you survive a zombie apocalypse? You know, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of that thought construct out there, a lot of that zeitgeist feeling, and that's really worrying, because in reality it's reflected by ISIS, which people call a death cult. Well, you know, they don't execute any more people than Texas or Saudi Arabia, okay, in reality. But they are very violent. But not only them. I mean, we're now living in a time where violence can just happen. Meaningless. I mean, you used to go about your business and you could just be blown up. It's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. And this is the world we now inhabit. We inhabit a world which breeds fear into us for a very good reason. They want us afraid. They want us, you know, to be fearful. But guys, we need to work against that. We have to turn around and say, no, I'm not going to live my life like that. I will not live my life like that. I recently watched Deadwood, and this was a beautiful analogy of what I want you guys to do. And this was the third season, I think, close toward the end. And Hearst, who's come into camp and wants to take over all the gold interests, shoots or has someone shoot at the lady who owns the bank and the largest gold claim in Deadwood. But not to kill her, just to scare her. So she goes into Swearingen's hotel, and they debate it, and they say, you know what? He wants us to be afraid. He wants us to live in fear. He wants us to just to turn tail and run. So what they do instead is, or the lady rather, by herself, and don't forget, this is the 19th century. Deadwood is a dirty place. If you haven't seen the TV show, it's a great TV show. And she goes and finishes to walk to her bank. in spite of just having been shot at. Deliberately missed, yes, but nonetheless been shot at. We need to be the same. We need to be as fearless and as defying as this fictional character in that fictional TV show. This is not about reality. This is a TV. I guess, but it's a beautiful analogy of what we need to do. I don't for one second assume that that would portrays what actually happened. I'm sure some of it is true, but we need to do the same thing. If we cower in fear and don't live our lives and don't help each other, how many of us are now compelled not to stop if we see someone broken down in the road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I myself will not go and help a child on a swing. When I take my child to the park and I see there's another child, like I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, I'm thinking now as, what will people think if I help that kid?
That's right.
It might be hanging there and requiring help, right? But my first thought is, what will people think? I didn't grow up like that. I was taught to think like that, and that's wrong. Sorry, but that's all I had to say about that.
That's okay. I still think the dirty space reference by the Mayans was that this is the dark rift is the evil side of the universe. When you happen to cross the border, the boundary to the other side, all evil breaks loose. I'm not saying evil as in the devil or anything. I think that we were on the good side and we could feel it. This doesn't feel like the good side. It's almost like the wrong side of the tracks, as cosmologically. Yeah. I have to say, I really want to get through this topic, Mickey.
Let's do it.
Yeah. But I
I
did post while you were talking there that we've hit 7.3 billion.
We have?
Yeah, people on the planet, and I think we're going to hit 7.7, maybe next year. It'll be much sooner.
Possible. That would be catastrophic, but
I'm just saying
7.3.
The tipping point that Mickey and I have spoken about. So
Yeah, it is a tipping point, but the tipping point was predicted for 2020. So if we hit it earlier, it's all possible. Clearly, right?
Yeah, completely.
I think we still have enough time to explain it all in show 200. So hopefully we'll still be around for that.
Yeah.
But Dave, you're right. Let's get cracking on the show. We want to finish the secret societies. We have spoken to you about Western secret societies, a whole bunch of Asian secret societies, links between Asian and European secret societies, specifically the Cathars, Manicheans, and Triads, and so forth. Now, this is an article also taken from the internet, which is called Chinese Secret Society Challenges the Illuminati, and we're gonna go in tandem here, and we're not gonna do all of it, but the vast majority, I would say. A Chinese secret society, and I'm quoting here, with 6 million members, including 1.8 million Asian gangsters and 100,000 professional assassins, have targeted Illuminati members if they proceed with world depopulation plans, according to Tokyo-based journalist Benjamin Fulford. Back in 2007, he was 46. That's when the article was published in 2007. They contacted Fulford, a Canadian expat, after he warned that the Illuminati planned to reduce the Asian population to just 500 million by means of race-specific biological weapons. The Illuminati, with the exception of Japan, is very much a white man's game, Fulford says. The secret society confirmed Fulford's information and asked him for advice. He provided a list of 10,000 people associated with the Illuminati, mainly members of the Bilderberg, CFR, and Skull and Bones. All familiar to you by now, I'm sure. Neocons are also high-priority targets. I have been promised that not a single person will die if they negotiate in good faith, Fulford says. Fulford is the former Asian Pacific bureau chief for Forbes magazine. He quit in disgust when Forbes refused to run a damaging story about one of its advertisers. Fulford also says Japan has been controlled in secret by the Illuminati through the use of murder and bribery. Underground sources tell him the Americans have murdered over 200 Japanese politicians and influential citizens since the end of World War II. Among the victims are former Prime Ministers Tanaka, Takeshita, Ohira, and Obuchi. They were all murdered using a special drug that induces strokes. The Illuminati have been warned that the Chinese secret society will not tolerate any more murders. It has also extended its protection to truth seekers in the West. Dave.
Oh, please protect me. It sounded facetious. It isn't. I would prefer that someone protect me anyway. Ancient secret society. The Chinese secret society is called the Green and the Red Societies, Fulford says. It can be found in the history books. When the Manchus invaded China in 1644, the Ming army became an underground society aimed at overthrowing the king. Is it King Manchu? And restoring the Ming. They supported the Boxer Rebellion, but were put down by imperialist powers with the help of overseas Chinese and the Japanese imperial family. The society managed to overthrow the last emperor and install Sun Yat-sen in his place. They last appear in the history books in the Green Gang and the Red Gang that fiercely fought the communists in Shanghai in the 1940s. They were defeated by the communists in 1949 and once again became an underground organization. Since 1949, they have steadily increased their influence throughout China and the rest of the world. They have members at the very highest level of Chinese government, but they are by nature anti-establishment and are not an official Chinese government organization. The society has deep roots in Japan because of the link between Yakuza crime gangs and the Japanese imperial family. The Japanese imperial family are descended from the 6th century Korean invaders. The original invaders had trouble putting down the native Jomon peoples, so they brought over a tough, warlike minority people from the Asian mainland. These are the ancestors of the Yakuza. They have historically been used for secret work for jobs like collecting taxes. But when the Japanese decided to help overthrow the last Chinese dynasty, they used the Yakuza as a go-between with the Chinese secret society. Many of those members were gangsters. To this day, many of the senior leaders of this group are actually Japanese, not Chinese. Meki.
Indeed. Yeah, look, just a very quick shout out to the chat room. Chindolo, I hear you, and I actually agree with you. This article is from 2007, some 8 years ago, at which point I think Fulford still had a lot of interesting information. What's happening recently is a slightly different story, especially since he paints the Illuminati as the good guys. But let's just listen to what he has to say here. And guys, make up your own mind about this in light of what we shared with you last week as well. You will see a lot of parallels and overlaps from completely unrelated sources. And this is really what this is about. It must be made very clear, though, that, and I'm quoting again, that it is not a crime gang. Although many members are triad and Yakuza members, over 2/3 of the members are intellectuals such as university professors, researchers, and government bureaucrats. Each member earns their own living, and membership in a society is like belonging to an emergency fire brigade. Their book of rules reads like a book of ethics filled with instructions to do things like help the weak, fight injustice, help your comrades, blah, blah, blah. They approached me, this is Fulford, and asked if they could help after he made a speech in Tokyo, describing the Bush regime's use of race-specific biological weapons. For him, it was like a ghost from the history books appearing right in front of him. At first, he thought of silly things like having them play 9/11 truth videos in Chinatowns around the world, and so on. However, he soon realized that he remembered a scene from the movie Kill Bill, where Uma Thurman snatches out her opponent's eye. And he realized these people could save the world by directly attacking the eye at the top of the pyramid on the $1 bill. Think about it. The Illuminati and their top servants have a total membership of about 10,000, whereas the Chinese group has over 6 million members. That is 600 to 1 odds. Furthermore, the 6 million have the names and addresses of the 10,000, while the 10,000 do not know who or where the 6 million are.
That's extraordinary. Now, Fulford on the Illuminati. And this is a quote. Below is a brief of a summary of the intelligence I have received, that's Fulford, from the sources including former Japanese Prime Minister, senior Yakuza gangsters, senior Japanese Freemasons, Western intelligence agencies, etc. First, the Illuminati are really inbred families of European and North American traditional aristocracy and banking families. They controlled the US, England, Europe, except for Scandinavian countries, Germany and Italy. Italy kicked them out in the 1970s. Japan, Africa, Iran, Canada and Mexico. They do not control China or Russia. Putin kicked them out for the first time since 1917. And don't forget there's India, Southeast Asia, South America and Cuba, etc. Their goal is to create a one world government. Until 2 years ago, the plan was the New World Order. That was outlined pretty clearly in the project for a New American Century. And we all remember the Amero. What happened to that? That was almost there. However, the decade in Iraq, the secret government
debacle.
The debacle in Iraq. Thank you, Mekki. The secret government of the West changed to a new plan that is a world government based on the EU. Of course, that's gone so tremendously well, hasn't it? To this, they will sabotage the US economy. Mekki.
However, there's a big schism in the secret government. J. Rockefeller and Philip Rothschild support one faction, the global warming faction. Opposing them is the war on terrorism faction supported by David Rockefeller and the JP Morgan descendants, Bush, Harriman, Walker, and so forth. The warming people want to sell 500 nuclear power plants to China and a similar amount to the rest of the world. The terrorism guys want to keep US dominance by maintaining control of oil. Putin was a huge setback for them. And just very quickly here, guys, very, very quickly. Now, while we've talked about this at length and all the plans that have been laid for, in my opinion, millennia, there is no guarantee that their plans will come off. Mm-hmm. That's why they still operate in secret to some extent. Have to. Because if it became known, other people would foil their plans. Like I believe Putin is actually an onion in the ointment here, right? Mm-hmm. I think Gaddafi was an onion in the ointment. I think for all his cruelty and such, Saddam Hussein became an onion in the ointment, and so on and so forth. And that's why I think this article is important to rediscover yet again. So let's keep going. There are also neo-Nazis who want to reduce the amount of colored people in the world by at least half through disease, starvation, and war. The Chinese secret society got wind of this and is preparing to stop them. Germany and Scandinavia are apparently not Illuminati, or we think they may not be. The author of the article challenged Fulford on Germany, Italy, Scandinavia, and possibly Russia not being controlled by the Illuminati. Fulford replied that the quality of his intelligence varies. He can say with certainty that China, Russia, and India are free. When Putin kicked out Nieslev and Berezovsky and arrested Khorovsky, he basically kicked the Rockefellers and Rothschilds out of Russia. I urge you to research those names for yourselves. He's got good Russian sources and is confident Putin is a nationalist who is fighting the Illuminati with all his might. Didn't turn out too well for some of the American presidents. When ex-NSA chief Bobby Inman spoke at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan on June 26th of 2007, he made it very clear he expected a protracted struggle with Russia. Okay, this was in 2007. I think it is clear that's exactly what we've seen, right? I think we've seen a reemergence of the Cold War, for want of a better word.
I think it's more a simmering war now. It's definitely not cold anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you, Pete. I've been corrected. Fulford does not paint the Illuminati as the good guys. Okay. Okay, I stand corrected. He does make a difference in definition between the Gnostic Illuminati and the Illuminati. So let's not put words into Fulford's mouth that weren't there. Thank you for the correction.
Awesome.
Okay, and that brings us to India. Kicked them out in Gandhi's day. And they have never been allowed back. Having liberated themselves after 300 years of Illuminati, East India Company rule, they do not intend to let themselves fall under their control again. Watch the Pirates of the Caribbean movies again. Why do I say this? It's Hollywood crap. No, it's not. It's not. Look at what the East India Company does. Look at who is fighting the East India Company. The pirates, the buccaneers. In my opinion, the descendants of the Knights Templar. See how they talk to each other at their meetings, the pirates, that is, and what rules they invoke. Please watch it again. Dave.
There have been many attempts by the Illuminati to infiltrate and dominate China. They financed Chairman Mao, but he then kicked them out in the 1960s. That is why China and the USSR nearly went to war then. They are now trying to create financial crisis in China that would open the way for them to infiltrate the Chinese financial system. Remember, create the problem, create the solution, or provide the solution. They will not succeed, he says. Italy basically purged itself during the big P2 Masonic Lodge scandal back in the 80s, and re-infiltration has only been partly successful. Germany is part of the NATO alliance and thus indirectly controlled. There is a power branch of the Rothschilds family operating there. However, Germany does not appear on a top-secret Illuminati power flow chart I have obtained, he says. As far as Iran is concerned, I know they financed Ayatollah Khomeini and Iran appears on the flowchart I have. My understanding is they want to provoke a conflict between Islam and the West so they can consolidate their control over Muslim and Christian worlds before finishing world conquests by taking over China and India. That is the most powerful paragraph. And does it not match what's happening today, Mickey?
Look, and I was going to say that's exactly right, Dave. And for everybody in the chat room, for all of our listeners as well, this is one of the reasons this article is being shared with you as well. This was written in 2007. Surely things were being foreshadowed. But I don't think anybody at that point would have thought ISIS was on the cards, or an organization like ISIS. And it certainly has pitched Islam against the West. It has. Think about the ill will and the bad feelings that have been conjured up by the Syrian refugees, by ISIS operating with impunity, by the terrorist activities allegedly perpetrated by ISIS.
And the media polarization, dude.
Yeah,
of the nations of the world.
It's eerie. It's eerily it's an eerie premonition. 8 years ago, right? So I think it's incredible, Dave.
Yeah, Henry Mako, PhD, is the inventor of the game Scruples and author of A Long Way to Go for a Date. His articles exposing feminism and the New World Order can be found at his website, and I'll say savethemails.ca. He enjoys receiving comments, some of which he posts on his site during using first names only. All right.
Yeah, so he was the author of that particular article, and thank you for that.
Extraordinary. Meki, this next section is called 12 Cults and Secret Societies of Africa.
That is correct. So we looked at the West, we looked at Asia, then I thought, well, what about Africa? What about secret societies in Africa? I mean, clearly this is one of the oldest civilizations on the planet. So there are some here. I'm afraid they're not as exhaustive as I would have liked. They're not as in-depth as I would have liked, but we're going to share them with you in any event. We're going to take them one at a time, and hopefully you will get some interesting information out of this. So Africa, obviously, has a long history of cults and secret societies that have allegedly played a hand in the continent's economics, politics, and law enforcement. Okay. The first one that we're going to share with you is called Poro, which operates out of Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and the Ivory Coast. So we're talking about the west coast of Africa here. Poro, aka Para or Puro, is a secret society for men, and within it there are subgroups that denote a member's level in society. Becoming a member can involve circumcision. The group has a lot of power in politics in Liberia, and some believe one cannot even hold political office in the country unless he is a part of Poro. And that's all we know about Poro.
That's it. Sunday, as Sande, Sunday, is a female component of the men's secret society, Poro. Until someone has been initiated into one of these societies, some villages will not acknowledge her as a member. Becoming a member can involve circumcision or being kidnapped and taken to a special school where Sunday candidates learn about the society, history and culture. It's rumoured, remember these are all rumours, that a special school for initiates takes place in the bush with special markings around it to let outsiders know they cannot come in. At one point, trespassing the bush school was said to be punishable by death.
Interesting. A leopard society. The leopard society was allegedly a cannibalistic society. There's something for the Sunday afternoons. In the early to mid 20th century, in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the Ivory Coast, group members would disguise themselves as leopards, wearing leopard skins, carrying claw-like weapons, and attacking their prey. They believed feasting on a human strengthened their bonds. Before you poo-poo that idea, cannibalism, ritual cannibalism, has been with us, well, since before the Neanderthals.
Well, the beginning, really, the beginning, you know.
Since the beginning, if you weren't part of my tribe, you're food. And it was also believed that by eating your opponent, as it were, or, battle opponent, you would be imbibing his or her powers.
Oh, there's a big word for a Sunday. Yes, you would take on their strengths. The Ekpi, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I apologize to anyone who's in the Ekpi, or Ekpe, or Akpe. The society, the secret society that lives mostly in Nigeria and believes its members are messengers between dead ancestors and the living. It is a male-only society and members are bound by secrecy, it seems prevalent across all of the secret societies. The society is somewhat akin to Freemason group and does some unofficial law enforcement. Freemasons are a fraternal organization that can be traced to the 14th century and who regulate members' interactions with authorities and clients. Residents of Ekpe villages often go to the group to help them seek justice when they have been wronged. Almost like a court system, Meki.
Yeah, like the Kadi. That's right.
Judicial.
The Ogboni. The Ogboni is a fraternity indigenous to Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. To be a member, one must be a part of Yoruba nobility. Allegedly, the group has a strong influence over the high courts when it comes to capital offenses. Recently, a member who left the group spilled details about Ogboni, saying they promise to make members rich, but never do. So it's really just Amway. Sorry, I shouldn't say that like that.
Oh, don't be terrible. The Osirica. The Osirica is a black Egyptian Masonic order that existed in ancient Egypt. Many believe this group's village, at present day, the Deir el Medina, was the original location where Freemasonry began. This village was originally named the Tar Set Mahat. Archaeological evidence found that the group was extremely advanced in education for its time, and headed the construction of the Valley of the Kings.
Maybe one of the spots where the ancient knowledge survived,
Quite possibly.
I would say. A pirate confraternity. Pirate with a Y, though. The pirate confraternity was a secret fraternity started at the University College in Ibadan, Nigeria, in the 1950s. The fraternity was founded on the belief that all university students either fell into the category of very wealthy students from powerful families or poor students trying to fit in with the wealthy ones. That's probably not too far from the truth. The pirate, also named the Magnificent Seven, sought to differentiate themselves from these categories. The group fought against any actions they saw as elitist taken by the school or students. Once the secret was out, after some turmoil, the group was pulled from schools, but members simply started new groups under different names. So it's a libertarian, egalitarian kind of society. That's my kind of society, Dave.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. The Okonko, the Okonko, was an ancient society that unofficially enforced the verdicts of village assemblies. The Okonko and the village members had unspoken understandings, like when a palm leaf was left behind a man's house, that meant that man had to face a court, the court of Okonko. Only men who didn't have any shame in their past were admitted as members. That's pretty good. During the initiation ceremony, the Okonko priest would reveal 7 secrets to the new member that must be never shared.
That is very interesting. Because that's very similar to something that I've come across. Anyway, the Nigi Society, Nigi Society, or Crocodile Society, as it were, is considered evil by the Poro and Sunday groups. The Nigi is a cannibalistic group, yet again, that feeds on human flesh to satisfy their god and to gain power from that god. The group believes that when they eat human flesh, they gain the ability to transform into a crocodile. The group allegedly staged murders to make it look like a crocodile attack. Again, this skinwalking capability is not a new thing to us either. Dave, we've spoken about this at length.
Absolutely. The Abakua is an Afro-Cuban men's society related to the Ekpe. The group is a mutual aid society known for elaborate street dances and very high expectations of the members to prioritize the group over their own families. That almost sounds like a religious thing that was from the 80s. The group has managed to stay mostly hidden for over more than 100 years.
Yes, and it's a trademark of most secret societies to demand absolute loyalty above anything else. Certainly, we know that Skull and Bones is structured like that. Loyalty to the club first, everything else second. Finally, well, not finally, well, this is the only one that we know about. If you know about more, let us know. Destiny, not Destiny, but Destiny. Based in South Africa, the Destiny is getting a reputation as a cult that is into thought control, censorship, and financial profit. So they're Scientologists. It's a new group that grew via the internet over the last 4 or 5 years. Its figurehead is a woman who says that she channels anything and anyone from dead celebrities to inanimate objects. Many say the group is a socialist dictatorship because it has very strict economic and industrial rules for its members. It is said to use democratic procedures for an anti-democratic cause. Now,
wow, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So, guys, just to cap it off and to be very clear, we shared a lot of information here today that came from the internet. We quoted from articles here, and I know that not everybody is a Fulford fan, or for that matter, one second, what's his name, a Mako fan either. I get that, and I've said this before when people challenged us on why we mentioned certain people. We are cross-referencing, guys. We are cross-referencing. It is up to you to see the linkages. We try to point them out when we can. And certainly the Mako article is right on the money when it predicted the intended conflict between Islam and the West in 2007. All right, you could argue that was on the cards. Yes, I would say that's probably true. However, it has come true with an almost preternatural power and almost an unstoppable momentum. As we've seen, we've got millions of displaced Syrians, right? That's a force to be reckoned with, guys. Mm-hmm. So, do we cast our net too wide? I say not. I say we need to cast it even wider and even bring confirmed disinformation agents to the debate, because in order for disinformation to be useful or believable or effective, it needs to contain truth. It is us that needs to then determine what might be truth. And if you read or listened to the article in detail and remember what we shared with you last week and the week before that and other times, there are things that are linked, and there are things that were confirmed by this article, which we know to be true. I mean, it's nice to get the confirmation from I guess a known disinformation source. Having said that, and I said this before as well, just because we think they're disinformation agents, they may not be, but they're painted that way. Ooh, it's all the double Dutch and doubling back and head them off at the path. And who can you trust? And the answer is nobody. You can't trust anybody. You need to make up your own mind. Don't listen to what people are saying. Don't listen to us. We give you the tools. The information is there. Make up your own mind.
So Meki, look, I wanted to say this last week, and I had to end up spilling over into the roundtable afterwards to mention it. But I think just to round off the secret societies, they exist everywhere. They're all over the planet. There are secret societies we don't even know about because they're still secret. Well, they are. And the whole goal,
you're right,
obviously, isn't to make them public. They don't have whatever it is. It's not public societies, these are secret societies. So by definition, they're supposed to remain secret, I suspect. I was surprised when we went into this, Meki, that there was so much information on the internet. On the internet is
I know.
It's crazy, right? And all the stuff that we've brought you is from the internet. None of this is, I mean, we researched it for you from the internet to bring it to you so that you wouldn't have to do it. And really, that's it. But look, we try not to include any motive. We didn't want to go in any direction to do that, because we don't know whether that was true. What we do know is that they exist. Right. That's what we've found through a lot of researching, was that these ones that we've brought you exist, and we've all heard of them, and some of them are a little have a little public foot. To bring you some information, and pretty much that's it. Do your own research, find out whatever you want, but we decided not to bring out the bad points of any of these societies, because we found, the information is there. If you really want to look, it's up to you. You can do what you like. But I was still astounded that the kinds of people, and especially when we're talking about, say, the founding of America, Meki, the amount of people that the founding fathers and their associated affiliations astounded me, and those good people I would want to aspire to be. I think that we should all have role models that we would want to be like, and that those people with their positive traits that you should be building into your life. I think you need to build, a list of good qualities that you would like to attain, or if you already have them, good for you, because I think that life on the planet, according to some religions, is about building upon what you've got. You should have a good foundation and build yourself a good character. It's like rolling it in Dungeons and Dragons. You want, it's a terrible likeness, similarly, but you should be building upon a good foundation. And I know that there's only a handful of people in my life, only a handful, that I've met that have qualities that I'd like to add to mine. I've had a lot of good ones, but when I meet someone, I go, actually, that's a really good quality. I'd like some of that, and I'll practice it and try it myself and see if it fits. How does it work with me? And I really should be doing a better job. Now, one of the things that I found with the secret societies was that a lot of membership of a lot of really good people. The founding fathers of the US, really good people. Continuing on through a bunch of presidents. I don't want to comment negatively upon the more recent ones, but I would say, why don't you want to be like these same people? Find your qualities. Do some family history searches and see if there's anyone in your family that's been a member of any of these. It might be difficult to find. It may not be mentioned, but you might have equally people of good stead in your own family history. And as we know, Meki from the movie Animal House, they had a secret society they joined. Yeah, Delta Tau Chi, I think it was, and they had their own names in there, and that you could either join because you were a pledge. That means you had a sponsor, or what was the other way of doing it, Meki? You had
your legacy.
Legacy, that's right. So legacy or a pledge. And I believe that the way that these are the same. That you either have a pledge or you have a legacy. Look for a legacy. Maybe you can apply. If you feel any of these societies are like you, if you feel like maybe you hit a certain age, I don't know. It's all going to be up to you. But do your research and have a look, because I think that the majority of the societies out there are probably out there for a good reason. The ones we've certainly spoken about in Africa are the ones that were in the East, in China. They've had their own motives for being there, and they brought down bad government. Wow. What a surprise. I never knew that, Meki.
But this is the thing, though, and let's be very clear before the show runs out. Let's be very clear on this. There are people that are working for the greater good. Full stop. Full stop. The founding fathers were inspired to create a country based on those ideals. Okay? The founding fathers of America, that is. They were inspired by Freemasonry. Freemasonry, in my opinion, was inspired by the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar reached further back in history via the Cathars, Manicheans, and beyond that, and into the East via Tao. Okay? These are people that are working for us and have been accused of heresy, have been accused of devil worship, have been accused of all kinds of things. But see, this is where the hypothesis hinges. This is really the crux of the hypothesis, which we're going to share with you in show number 200 as well. Again, these people are working on our behalf. Some lodges and some societies and some people have been infiltrated, and then some people don't know, and others have been turned, and all these things happen. The essence, the core of a very large number of these societies, and you will need a sponsor to get in, or your legacy, and you must be a legacy in good standing. But you will need a sponsor to get in, because this is the key thing, guys. Having the knowledge that will be imparted to you will make you a target. The Cathars, the Manicheans, the Bogomils, the Knights Templar in the end, were exterminated with prejudice, extreme prejudice. The phrase, kill them all, let God sort them out, was forged during the Crusades against the Cathars in the Languedoc area of France. That's where the expression comes from. Kill them all. Because what he did say, he said, kill them all, God will know his own. On the question of whether or not they should put a town to the sword, there was 50-50 Catholic and Cathar. Well, not Catholic at the time, but mainstream Christian. These are the guys that are working for us. And they were unfortunate or foolish enough to make their knowledge more public and come out into the open. That is only happening now. For the last 700-800 years, they have operated in secrecy. They have operated under the guise of others. They have not really revealed their true colors. And a large number of members of certain societies don't know what it's about. It's the only way to preserve the knowledge. It's the only way to fool those that wish us harm, and they wish us harm by keeping us here. After one reincarnation after the next, after the next, after the next. I believe now. Initially, I didn't know what it was about. In fact, until recently, I didn't know what it was about. But I now believe we're here to be destroyed, to have our souls destroyed. I think that's one of the main reasons to do that. Okay, I really, really believe that. So they're not all bad. No, these are secret societies because they have to be secret societies. Can you imagine what it would have been like to be a communist, or for that matter, a socialist or whatever in Nazi Germany? You're not going to tell everybody you're a communist. You're not going to run around, I'm a communist. They're going to shoot you. Okay? Mm-hmm. At best, they lock you up. No. If you're facing an enemy that is just as clever as you are, and maybe even more clever, and maybe even more better, or better established than you are, you have to operate in secrecy. The great revolutions in the world didn't happen because people came out in the open and talked to everybody about it. It just didn't happen that way, right? They met in secret, right? They organized, they put things together, and they only surfaced when they were ready. Let's hope. I mean this. Let's hope that whoever is working on our behalf, and when I say our behalf, I'm talking about the great unwashed, all of us that are not the elite, are in fact readying themselves to come out, all right, and help us. I really hope they do it before we hit 7.72 billion, 7.772 billion, in fact. Again, it'll all become clear in show number 200. Just bear with us until then. We've got a few more minutes. I do want to spend that time to once again appeal to you to donate to the station if you can. I also appeal to you to donate to other worthy causes. Especially at this time of the year. It's the end of the year, the Christmas season, as misguidedly as we believe it's Christian as it might be, but it is nonetheless a season to give, I believe, and it's a season to share. It's a season to count your blessings and make sure that other people have a little more maybe than they had yesterday, and maybe you can help do that. If you can help the station, awesome. If you can help someone else, awesome as well. If you see someone that's cold, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, maybe buy them a hot meal. I don't know, right? Something. But this is really the time for reflection, and it's a time to do the right thing. Doing the right thing is only valid if you do it for no one, and there is no glory for you. And that's it.
That is it. Well, that's the end of show 197. We'll see you next week for show 198 on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Don't forget to donate. Take care.